This happened about 2 years ago, and I still get chills thinking about it. My girlfriend Sarah and I had just moved into this duplex on the outskirts of town. The rent was almost too good to be true. A 2-bedroom place for half what we'd been paying for our cramped studio apartment. The landlord, Mr. Henley, seemed nice enough during the walkthrough, though he talked fast and kept checking his watch. The first few weeks were perfect. We loved having our own space, and the neighborhood was quiet. Maybe too quiet, but we figured that was just suburban life. It started with the sounds around 3 a.m. At first, I thought it was our upstairs neighbors, but then I remembered we lived in a duplex, not an apartment building. Sarah heard it too, muffled shuffling directly beneath our bedroom like someone walking around in socks on concrete. Then came the whispering. Not clear enough to make out words, but urgent, like people having a heated discussion they didn't want overheard. When we asked Mr. Henley about it during his monthly rent collection, he laughed it off. "Old houses make all kinds of noises," he said. "Besides, the basement's been sealed off for years. Structural issues." He seemed nervous, fidgeting with his keys and avoiding eye contact. But the sounds continued. Every night, same time. Sarah started sleeping with earplugs, but I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being studied somehow. Little things felt off. Our mail would be slightly displaced. Groceries we swore we'd bought would go missing. The feeling of being watched became constant. One Saturday morning, I decided to check the basement door myself. It was in a narrow hallway near the kitchen, painted over with thick white paint that looked recent. But when I ran my fingers along the frame, I felt deep scratches around where a lock would be, like someone had been picking at it repeatedly. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around 2:30 a.m., I grabbed a flashlight and went outside to check the foundation. There was a small crack near what I assumed was the basement level. I crouched down and shined the light through. My blood went cold. Sleeping bags, food containers, and covering one entire wall, photographs. Dozens of them. Sarah leaving for work, me at the grocery store, both of us sleeping in our bed, taken through our bedroom window, pictures of our car, our license plate, even screenshots of what looked like our bank statements. I stumbled backward, nearly dropping the flashlight. Inside, I could hear movement, voices getting agitated. They knew I'd seen. I woke Sarah and we called the police immediately. When they arrived, Mr. Henley showed up too, claiming he'd been alerted by the security company. The officers found the basement door still locked, but Mr. Henley produced a key without hesitation. The basement was empty, completely empty. No sleeping bags, no photos, nothing. Just concrete walls and that musty smell. The police found no evidence of break-in or trespassing. Mr. Henley acted genuinely confused by our claims. But later, when we read our lease more carefully, we found a clause buried in the fine print about occasional maintenance access for property management purposes. When I asked Mr. Henley about it directly, he just smiled and said, "Standard language, nothing to worry about." We tried to break the lease, but the penalty was enormous. 3 months' rent plus fees we couldn't afford. And here's the thing that still haunts me. Within a week of our police visit, we started getting credit card applications in the mail for accounts we'd never opened. Someone had used our personal information they could only have gotten by watching us enter PINs, seeing our mail, accessing our laptops while we slept. We moved out 2 months later, eating the cost. But sometimes, Sarah swears she still sees the same beat-up van that used to be parked across from our duplex following her to work. And I've noticed a few charges on my credit report that I can't quite explain. The scariest part? We looked up our old address online last month. There's a new couple living there now, and their social media is full of complaints about strange noises coming from the basement at 3 a.m. Some leases, I learned, aren't just about renting space. Sometimes you're renting your privacy too, and once someone has that, it's nearly impossible to get it back. I bought my first house in Maple Grove 8 months ago. Quiet suburban neighborhood where everyone waves and kids ride bikes in the street. The kind of place you'd never think twice about leaving your door unlocked. My next door neighbor Gary introduced himself moving day, Mid-50s, graying beard, friendly smile. He offered to collect my mail and packages while I worked. "Amazon drivers around here are terrible," he chuckled. "They'll just leave stuff for anyone to grab." Gary was incredibly reliable. He always knew exactly when deliveries arrived, often bringing packages before I got notifications. Sometimes he'd bring misdelivered mail from other houses. I thought it was neighborliness. The first strange thing happened 3 months in. I came home finding Gary peering through my living room window, hand cupped against glass. "Oh, hey," he called out. "Thought I heard your smoke detector. Just checking everything was okay." I hadn't heard anything, but thanked him anyway. Weeks later, I ordered vintage camera equipment. When Gary brought it over, he lingered longer than usual. "I used to be quite the photographer," he said. "Mind if I take a look sometime?" I never invited him over. The package that changed everything arrived on a Tuesday. Gary seemed different, nervous. His smile was forced. "Weird one today," he said, handing me a manila envelope. No return address. Inside were dozens of photographs, high-quality shots of my house, but not just outside, interior photos, living room, kitchen, bedroom. My blood froze at the last images, me sleeping, multiple angles, different nights. Someone had been inside my house repeatedly while I slept. I called police, but without forced entry evidence, they couldn't help. I changed locks and installed security that day. 2 weeks later, I examined the envelope closely. Postal markings led to a P.O. box registered under Gary Hoffman, my helpful neighbor. Gary always knew about packages because he was watching. He had keys, probably copied during those early Grateful days. But why photograph my house? I followed Gary one Tuesday. His storage unit was packed with filing cabinets and photo albums. Floor plans covered the walls, every house on our block. Detailed schedules. Johnson family leaves 7:45 a.m. Kids at school until 3:30. Photos of interiors, personal documents, medical records. Gary was cataloging our entire neighborhood. When I confronted him, Gary wasn't surprised. He invited me in, poured coffee. "I wondered when you'd figure it out," he said calmly. "You're smarter than most. What are you doing with those files?" His smile returned, making my skin crawl. "I provide services. Insurance companies pay good money for valuable item documentation. Private investigators need interior layouts. Sometimes people want to know if spouses are really working late. You're selling to burglars, among others. But here's the thing. Everyone has secrets. Mrs. Patterson claims disability while running a cleaning business. The Andersons lie on tax returns." My stomach dropped. Blackmail. Maintaining neighborhood harmony. Nobody reports the strange man in their house because nobody wants their business exposed. Beautiful system. 8 years perfecting it. Gary pulled out a thick folder with my name. Photos I'd never seen. Me at banks, stores, talking to a woman from work who wasn't my girlfriend. "You've got secrets too." His voice was gentle, paternal. Amazing what long lenses capture through office windows. I left knowing I'd never call police. Just like everyone else on Maple Grove Drive, I'd become part of his collection, another file in his cabinet. Sometimes I catch Gary watching from his kitchen window. He waves, I wave back. Because in neighborhoods like this, being helpful is everything, even when it's terrifying. I moved to Maple Street thinking I'd found the perfect suburban neighborhood. Tree-lined sidewalks, friendly neighbors, kids riding bikes until dark. I should have known something was off when the power kept going out. Every few weeks, sections of our street would lose electricity. Not the whole grid, just our block, sometimes 3 or 4 houses. The utility company always sent the same guy, Dave. Mid-40s, soft-spoken, with that practiced smile of someone dealing with frustrated customers. "Your street's got unique electrical problems," he'd explain. "Old wiring, weird grid setup. I'm the only tech familiar with it." Dave was thorough. He'd spend hours in each house, checking every outlet, every switch. He always asked to inspect bedrooms. "That's where most electrical fires start," he'd say with genuine concern. "My neighbors loved him. Mrs. Chen made him coffee. The Johnsons invited him to barbecues." I started noticing things after the fourth visit. Dave's van would park at our street's end even without outages. He'd linger in my bedroom, testing the same outlet repeatedly. He'd ask specific questions. "You work from home much? Kids have sleepovers often?" The paranoia crept in slowly. I'd check outlets, wondering if they looked different. My bedroom felt watched. I started covering my webcam, closing laptops during calls. Friends said I was being ridiculous. Then Sarah from 2 houses down called, voice shaking. She'd been suspicious too, had installed a hidden camera. The footage showed Dave removing a tiny device from behind her light switch, then installing something smaller, harder to see. We called police, but Dave had proper credentials, work orders for ongoing electrical safety inspections. The devices we found were sophisticated. Pinhole cameras disguised as outlet faceplates, audio recorders built into switch covers. When we tried removing them, we discovered they were hardwired into the electrical system. Tampering required an electrician, and guess who the utility company recommended? The real horror came when Sarah's brother traced signals from the devices. They led to a server hosting live feeds, multiple feeds, our bedrooms, living rooms, bathrooms. The viewer count made my stomach drop. Dozens of strangers watching us sleep, shower, argue. Comments discussed our routines, our children's schedules. Dave's van disappeared after that, but damage was done. How long had he been watching? How many private moments broadcast to strangers? The utility company claimed no knowledge, said Dave was a contracted worker. I moved 6 months later, but I still check every outlet obsessively. Sometimes I wonder if Dave found a new street, new trusting neighbors. Sometimes I wonder if someone else is watching me now. The power hasn't gone out once since I moved. Somehow that doesn't make me feel safer.